Come with Lee if you want to live. All this and more on This Week in Retro. Get to the chopper!
High-resolution color graphics.
This land of high technology.
The revolution in technology that made the information age possible.
Those kids are not afraid of computers.
I know Kung Fu.
I need your clothes to go to Boots on my bicycle.
Shortcuts end in disaster.
All this and more coming up on this week's show.
Up-to-date news for out-of-date tech.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of This Week in Retro. What are we at? What episode number is it, Dave? 209. 209. Incredible. Like you said that without even moving your lips, Dave. We're joined by a friendly, familiar face. It's Lee from More Fun Making It. Thank you for joining us, Lee.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm really, really full of cold.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I've got a packet of Fisherman's Friends here. Dave, are you full health this week?
I'm feeling pretty good. A little bit of a tickle in my throat, so I hope I've not caught the cold off you. You're lurgy, but other than that, I'm all right. Aye, I'm pretty good. Slept really well for a change. I'm full of beans.
Good. I must say, and if you're on audio, this won't help you very much, but Lee always has his scene set so nicely with a slight blur in the background, nice lighting. Always does such a nice job of that. What's your secret, Lee?
Spending far too much money on equipment.
Sounds about right. If you don't know Lee, he runs the YouTube channel More Fun Making It, which you must subscribe to because it's a wonderful combination of repairs, insights, and good humour, I must say. Very much enjoy watching it. And this, for the very last time, I'm going to annoy you by just saying, go and buy the bundle. Go and buy the bundle because when this goes out, it's the last day that it's available. So this is the Retro Support Bundle. Where do we go? We go to retrocollective.co.uk/support. Spend £15 or more. You can choose on a wonderful bundle full of full games, music, magazines, all of that stuff that I know you will love to help support the garage renovation project at the museum. It's now or never, people. Go and do it, please. Thank you. And I will shut up now. Dave, how are you?
I'm in it.
Oh, yeah, Lee's it. Yeah, an exclusive episode from More Fun Making It in that bundle. So
there's even an exclusive episode of This Week in Retro in it.
There is. Yeah, I forget. And
I bet you bring it up one more time, Neil.
Only if you ask me to, Dave. What have you been doing?
I have been buying games. Look what I've been buying. What do these look like?
Oh, Infocom text adventures.
They do. So these are more Polydot play games that I've bought. Airlock and the Ruin of Oceanus, or Oceanus Prime. That's how you pronounce it. Oceanus Prime. They are Infocom style text adventures. In fact, they're written in Punian form, which is a kind of a derivative kind of thing of Infocom's Z machine stuff. I don't really understand it all, but I know that these ones here come with 3-inch discs that I can play on a PCW or my CPC in CPM using an interpreter I've forgotten the name of. I have forgotten the name of, but it means that you can play all over Infocom games there. But it's full of feelies and stuff in that box. I haven't opened them yet. I'm going to open up when I'm ready to play.
We'll be talking about things like that later in the show. But they've done well. They've done well to come up with a stock of 3-inch discs. Yeah.
You pay a little bit extra to get the 3-inch disc version, but it's wonderful playing on the Amstrad or the CP or the PCW. Love it.
Fantastic. Lee, what have you been up to this week?
I've been taking over the internet. I've been I think I've released 4 videos in the last week. So it's been I'm prolific at the moment. It's taking over a little bit, but I might row it back a little bit and catch my breath and then see how it goes. But yeah, I've been having fun just making videos. It's been great. After the massive effort last year of the charity event that I did with the donkeys, I kind of took a break for over Christmas, and that extended into the new year. And then I had a look at making some new videos on my second channel, More Fun Fixing It. Go and subscribe. And and I just got really into making repair videos, and I've just been having great fun.
Super. Can you just clarify for someone that doesn't know, you mentioned the charity event with the donkeys.
The event. Don't mention the event.
What was that all about? I know, but people may not know.
there's not much to update on that at the moment because over the winter, so going back, we raised a whole heap of money. I think it's over £18,000 now as a community. It was fantastic. What an effort. I'm so proud of everybody that got involved, you included. And we just did far beyond my wildest expectations. And we raised all this money so that the befriending scheme could buy some miniature donkeys for their community farm. And that's all going ahead. They've
have they arrived?
Not yet. They've been putting up fences and things, but because of the winter, the conditions haven't been ideal for that kind of work. So, but I'm assured that that's going to go ahead. And once the donkeys are there, then I will be there with cameras and
fantastic. There you go. It's not all about Amiga Minis and Spectrum Minis. It's about the mini donkeys too.
It's about the mini donkeys.
Well done, Lee. Should we get into our first story?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Getting hold of an old machine isn't too expensive, for the most part. The vast majority of them can be had for not very much, and it's only a few that are rare and expensive, like the Falcon or the Sam Coupe, or others that have a habit of self-destruction, like the Amiga 1200 or the Archimedes range, that are more expensive. So for the most part, you can pick one up if you keep an eye out on marketplaces for really not very much. So let's say you managed to get yourself a Commodore 64 or a ZX Spectrum or an Amstrad CPC on eBay for, I don't know, 80 quid or $100 on a whim. And it's time to get back into some Boulder Dash or some Rebel Star or some Dr. Destructo. It's been years and you've thought about it before, but this time you've done it. eBay pinged up a notification while you've had a little bit of a drink and you hit the button and bought it. And what comes in the post a week later? Well, hopefully something packed well, hopefully, without using grotty old towels. But you don't actually know what you've got because the Commodore 64, you don't know how to power it. You don't know how to get games onto it, and there's no way to get your signal into your HDMI screen. Now, the first and last problems are fairly easily addressed. For the first one, you can use an old original PSU. You can check it works first with a multimeter, or you can buy a new one. Sadly, it'll cost you almost as much as the C64 itself, but what you'll get should last for as long as you will. And for the last one, what you'll usually do is find an old TV or monitor that you already have, or you'll get one for next to nothing that will accept a composite signal, and then all you need is a cable to connect between that and the C64. And that leaves you the last problem, how to get something on it. Now, there's a few options there. You could try and get an original cassette deck for it, and then you'll need to repair it yourself and service it, and then hope you can get cassettes to work. You can get a cassette tape emulator. You can get an original disk drive, hope it works, and then get hold of discs. Or you can get a disk drive emulator. Or you can do something as Neo in The Matrix says, I know Kung Fu. And thanks to a submission from Colony Activists, we'll be talking about that, because this week's guest, Lee, went ahead and did it. What did you do, Lee?
Well, the first thing I did was go and look on eBay to see how much they were. And then, because it was quite a new project, this is the Kung Fu Flash 2. Because it was quite a new project, I decided that I didn't really want to spend 50-something pounds on an SD loading solution. So I had a look at the project on GitHub, and Kim Jorgensen has made it completely open source. So
what
anybody...
does it do? What does the thing actually do?
But the Kung Fu Flash 2 is just simply, as you said, it's a way to load software, so mainly car images, but it can also do disk images and other things, ROM images, things like that. But it can also emulate the REU, the RAM expansion unit that used to be quite popular with the C64 and C128 back in the day. So anyway, I decided I wasn't going to spend all that money. I was going to get my friends involved, and we use crowd power to go out and buy our own Kung Fu Flash 2, get it all made by a PCB manufacturer, and sent to us for very, very little money. I ended up actually spending, well, it cost everybody just over £10 each, complete, for a Kung Fu Flash 2. This is my one. Kung Fu Flash 2 with a 3D printed case, a really, really nice label made by Dan at Retrofied. And all of the bits that we need. Some of them had SD cards included, but yeah, it was just a great thing, because my favourite thing to do in retro is get people together to do things. My passion is community. I love making communities and putting people together that have fun together. And this turned into quite a nice little event, and everybody was stepping up. I had Julian from the board folk, who was helping me with the intricacies of ordering a PCB online. There's some things when you're putting a bill of materials together off of a GitHub, it's not always straightforward, and sometimes there are things out of stock, and it's difficult for a layman like myself, I'm not an expert, to actually put these things together themselves without help. And if you get your friends together, the collective can usually overcome the problem. So I had some great help from Julian. He's a very, very clever man and well used to ordering PCBs for himself. And yeah, this was all on my Retro Hardware Discord, where everybody is now starting to make more group buy things. As it's become something that we are becoming comfortable doing as a group, and other people are doing it as well, because it's quite hard work for one person to do it, but getting other people involved really makes it into a more pleasant experience, and so ridiculously cheap.
And there are often minimum order quantities with these things, aren't there? So it's really good to split that cost out. How many of you bought the Kung Fu Flash? Can you remember?
Well, I started off at 5 and said to everybody, oh, is anybody interested in this? And got swamped. So I set it at 15 and said, I'm not going to do any more than 15, because if you go past certain limits, you end up paying more for postage, and costs can suddenly expand in ways that you don't expect. So yeah, we put it at 15, and everybody got their Kung Fu Flash fully functional, and it was a complete and great success.
Yeah, it's a fantastic video. So you've turned it into a video where you explain it all. And I honestly think if you wanted to do this yourself, you could follow Lee's video. And I think you've done it that way. You could follow Lee's video, and I'm sure you'll make a mistake or two. But you could follow Lee's video, and you could do it by that. You've given enough information. You've been careful about it. Fantastic thing to see everyone come together. But it's great to see the price coming down for it, because it is, if you buy a Commodore 64 and then you need these 3 things I've mentioned, the power, the video, the data, by the time you've got those, you've spent more on those, much more on those, than you have in the Commodore 64.
That's the curse of retro collecting, is that it's great getting the computer or the games console that you want, but getting the things that you need to make it work, it triples or quadruples the cost in the end. So yeah, saving money is good.
Yeah. The easy answer, of course, is to emulate. And we know that Mister isn't cheap itself, but by the time you add up the cost of that Commodore 64, you've probably got the cost of a Mister. So it's about the same, and it solves all the problems, and then you get any other machine you want. And there's also the excellent little minis. I know sometimes people look down their nose at them, but I think they're great. I don't have them, I don't use them, but I think they're great if that's what you want, something to plug and play. Or you can just do it in your PC. There's nothing wrong with emulation, but there's nothing quite like real hardware, is there, Neil?
No, there's nothing quite like it, but I'm not going to be led down that road of gatekeeping there, Dave.
No, we can't gatekeep. No, we shouldn't. We must.
You mentioned the Mister there, but I mean, if you're talking about a Commodore 64, a netbook, a 20-year-old PC, anything that you've got kicking around will do it. And as we so often discuss on the show, then it becomes about using the wrong hardware to recreate the experience, and how close you can get to that without it sort of distracting you. It's difficult, and it all depends on your goal as to how much money you're going to throw at this. If you just want to get straight into a game and play it, then mini emulation ticks most boxes. I dare say you'll have as much fun on a mini donkey as you will on a full-size donkey. What do you think?
Possibly more.
It'll probably cost you less. But if you want to use real hardware, you've got to weigh up the fragility of that particular system with the alternatives. From my experience, an Amstrad CPC 464, pretty bulletproof and easy to get hold of.
Yeah, fix the power switch and that's it. That's the only thing you'll ever need to do.
A Sharp 68000 it's going to cost a lot to get, and it's going to be a huge pain in the backside. For example, when my tri-sync CRT goes pop and I have to find an alternative, that's going to be a pain. And I hate to say it, Lee, because I know you love them. ZX Spectrums, they go pop quite a lot.
The most reliable machine on the planet. Well, there's enough of them. Just buy another one.
If I had to pick a model of Spectrum that's the most reliable, what would you go for?
Well, it's not necessarily the most reliable because none of them are very reliable, but I would go for the Grey +2 because it ticks every box. You've got 128K of memory. You've also got good compatibility going backwards, and you've got a tape deck built in. You've got RGB as well. So you've ticked a lot of boxes straight away that make it very easy to actually use.
You've got joystick ports
that you need to rewire.
But for some people, likely, fixing it is part of the fun. It's more fun.
Hey!
And you wouldn't want to skip that part of the whole process. Loading Manic Miner is fun. Loading it on a machine that everyone else has consigned to the dustbin is even more fun. So that's all part of it. For some people, I get that it isn't for everyone. But yeah, the group buy thing that Lee did, I think that's great to get the cost down on that Kung Fu Flash cart. And, you know, there's Lee's community that he's mentioned. If you don't mind, we'll ask Duncan to pop a link in the show notes if people want to come and flood your Discord. But there's also lots of retro communities. Just take a look on Facebook for your system of choice. You'll find a group. You'll start making friends. The caveat being, please get to know them before you actually part with any cash on a group buy. But there's lots of people out there to help you with these things. So there is no wrong way of doing this, Dave.
No, it's a fantastic time to be in retro because of all these projects. We've talked, last year we talked an awful lot about these little Pi devices. These, I've forgotten which type of Pi it is.
Pico?
That's the one. The Pico devices. So many of them now.
I absolutely, of all of the devices, the Pico scratches all of my itches. It's a fantastic thing.
Yeah. It is really cheap. It's powerful enough to do almost anything we need it to do, and it will do whatever you need to do just about. You've got the new CPC one coming out. You've got them for all sorts of devices. You've got the Pico Gus, the Pico Mem, all sorts of stuff. And it used to be you had to do something like an Ultra Satan for the Atari ST if you wanted a hard disk. The Ultra Satan is something that's quite expensive. But now the cost is coming down with all these devices there. All these different machines are getting these add-ons that answer the problems. I don't know what's inside the Kung Fu Flash 2, but it's something along the same lines as a Pico. And yeah, it's a fantastic time to be in retro because all these things are being solved and the cost is actually coming down. We are sponsored this week by Pixel Addict Magazine. Pixel Addict Magazine is Britain's favourite classic computing magazine.
I know it's my favourite.
Yeah. And this issue is a pinball special. You can see a lovely, shiny chrome ball on the front of the artwork. I presume it's done by the same talented person I've forgotten the name of that's been on the show before.
That one?
Does them all. Yep, that's the guy. Begins with a G, does it? Does it begin with a G? Might do.
So rude. So rude.
It's all about the research.
His name's gone. Nice guy. He's been on before. There are lots of articles this week. This month. This 6 month has six week as usual. Pico 8 Spectrum games. Alone in the Dark movies. I didn't know it was Alone in the Dark movies. Have you seen the Alone in the Dark movies?
I haven't seen it, but I knew of it. Yes, I think it hasn't come out yet, has it?
I don't know. Well, it says columnist Matthew Smith sorts through them as if there's more than one.
Well, maybe we should read the magazine.
Well, I haven't read it yet because it's only just about to come out. Anyway, buy the magazine and then you can tell us what's in it. How does that work?
Brilliant. Where do we go to buy the magazine, Lee?
Pixel.addict.media. I've been waiting for that for over a year.
Pixel.addict. Thank you very much for sponsoring us. Go and buy your magazine. Get it in your hand. It's a lovely thing to have.
Just stop talking, Dave.
Thank you.
There are a few more distinctive tunes than the Terminator 2 theme. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. Come on, join in anytime you like, guys.
I'll join in when you start doing the Terminator 2 theme.
Is that the magic roundabout?
There it is. Beautiful. As soon as you hear it, you know you're in for explosions, suspense, and CGI, the likes of which we'd never seen before. In 1991, when the film landed and became a box office smash. I'm not going to try and do any Arnie impressions. Anyone else want to step in?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Oh, beautiful. It's like he was in the room. It was at the tail end of the 8-bits era, unless you were unfortunate enough to get the brand new Commodore C64 GS in Christmas of 1990 when it came out. And the 16-bit machines were really starting to sing as programmers got to grips with them. Of course, there were going to be Terminator 2 games. And if you were a C64 GS owner, don't worry, you got one too. Terminator 2 would appear on most platforms going. We had arcade, pinball. The arcade got a pretty nice on-rails gun game with digitized sprites, great big sprites from the movie characters and the machines. Great fun with 2 players. Quickly over with my shooting abilities, but I do remember enjoying it.
I think it might have been hungry for coins, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. Midway, wasn't it? It was a Midway arcade. The Mega Drive got a version of the arcade version for its Menacer light gun. I think it got that first, and then the Super Nintendo got that later. Game Boy, Amiga, Game Gear, Master System, they all got a version of the arcade and eventually the PC. That was quite late to the party in 94.
It was good, though. The PC one was good.
Well, it depended on the hardware. There were mixed reviews. Of course, without a light gun, it was difficult to recreate that experience. Playing it with a mouse, some people enjoy it, some people don't. But the T2 game I remember best is Terminator 2 Judgment Day, published by Ocean for the various 8 and 16-bit micros. And it did, I'm afraid to say, feel like a slightly hastily cobbled together series of action and puzzle mini-games.
From Ocean. Ocean wouldn't do that.
And bad news for C64 GS owners, because the cartridge version was GS compatible, but you had to press a key to start the game. The GS had no keyboard. Oops. Anyway, this particular version had mixed reviews. The 8-bits actually got better ratings, better reviews than the 16-bit machines. Perhaps it was better. Perhaps they were just desperate to keep their platform alive and slightly biased in that respect. I don't know. But I remember playing it a few times on the Amiga and just consigning it to the back of the disc box. It was a pretty mediocre game. It did have some nice digitized frames from the movie, little sequences in single color, such was the capabilities of the machine. And, they look rubbish now, but I was quite impressed by that at the time. But otherwise, distinctly average. The Game Boy later got its own version of the game, the NES, various other platforms and genres surrounding the movie, including chess. And there's a really good Terminator 2 gaming retrospective by Oliver Harper on YouTube. So I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to go and watch all of that. But in summary, I was disappointed by Ocean again for seeing a movie that I loved get a rubbish game, and went back to playing The Untouchables, which was much, much better as a movie game. Maybe even a bit of Batman the movie. Quite enjoyed that too. But now in 2025, there is a new Terminator 2 game, which has been announced. It's called Terminator 2D No Fate. It's a brand new retro game, which is due to be released on all modern platforms in September of this year from Bitmap Bureau, who have a really good track record with games like Xenocrisis and Final Vendetta. So I am expecting good things. And the trailer, which has been doing the rounds this week, does look excellent. I'd say the graphical style reminds me a little bit of Metal Slug, which is a good thing. It's all 2D, thousands and thousands of frames of animation per sprite. It's cartoon-like. It looks wonderful. I've also seen chatter on social media about announcements possibly coming soon about it being released also on retro systems. And by Bitmap Bureau's track record, that means we can probably expect it on the Mega Drive, Super Nintendo, maybe other consoles, and fingers crossed, the Neo Geo. Dave?
There was an interview with them, and they all but said they were going to port it. I think they dropped a big hint about it. So I think you're right. It's coming.
Tends to be what they do. And they did contact me recently to ask for contact details for Hoffman, who, of course, did the recent Golden Axe and Shinobi ports to the Neo Geo.
Sorry to interrupt, Neil. Where can people play Xeno Crisis?
Oh, well, Dave, why don't you tell them?
If you buy Neil's bundle, the Retro Collective bundle, which contains a whole plethora of stuff, one of the many things is Lee's video. And once you finish with Lee's video, you can play Xeno Crisis.
You can have a Xeno Crisis and a midlife crisis all in one bundle. Anyway, back on track. They were trying to get hold of Hoffman, and probably perhaps something to do with a Neo Geo port. Come on, Hoff.
Maybe they just want some music. Maybe they just want some music.
Maybe. But get involved, Hoffman. Anyway. Sadly, no news of an Amiga version of this game, but whatever.
Amiga able to, I don't think the Amiga could do it, could it?
Well, it'd be very stripped back.
Hoffman, the Amiga couldn't do it, could it?
Oh no, it couldn't possibly do this on the Amiga, Hoffman. Can't imagine anyone having the skills to do that. I'm probably going to go for the physical Switch version, which I think was around £45, something like that, to buy, £50. Such is the going rate for a physical game in this day and age. Even back in the 90s, you could pay £50 for a physical game. So pretty good going. And there are more expensive collector's editions and things like that available. Have you seen the game? What do you think? And are you a fan of the movie, Lee?
Big fan of the movie. And I had a look at the trailer. And I also watched the little documentary, the doco that they did for the for the development of the game. The abstraction engine was the thing that they said that they've created that can port to practically, well, they made it sound like it could go to practically any retro system, but I'd really like to see it working on a Spectrum or a ZX81. But I can't see why it wouldn't work on an Amiga. But the game itself, that's a masterclass in how to put together a trailer, really, isn't it? It really made you want to play this thing, because if you've ever seen that film within the last 20 years, you know everything that's going on there, all of the scenes that they've plucked out and dropped into there.
Your blood's up right away with it, isn't it?
You want to be involved in that, and plus it looks so good as well for a retro themed game that it still looks absolutely incredible. I did have some reservations about it's kind of a multi-format game, because Neil said it was something a bit like Metal Slug. I thought more Contra.
Oh yeah,
that kind of game.
Oh, like Geyser.
Yeah, but there were other parts in it where they had the bit where the helicopter shoots into the building, and you're in the building and you can shoot, I'm assuming some heavy machine gun outside using a pointer. And that's a completely different style of game to the run and gun, shoot and sideways scrolling platform game. And I get nervous when games become multi-format, because sometimes I'll play a game, I'll play the bit that I like, and then I'll bounce off of the bit that I don't like and stop playing. So yeah, it does make me a little bit nervous. But I still think I want to play it.
There are other scenes that kind of remind me of the Alien 3 game, a bit more shooting and exploring and sort of maze-like, and then others that are pure action. I didn't see any puzzle elements, thankfully, which is what Ocean split up their game with back in the day.
The face.
Yeah.
Oh, no. RoboCop getting the identiface thing.
And they had a face thing in Terminator 2. On the Amiga and on the 8-bits, but they weren't licensed to use the likeness of Arnie, so that's why he looks a bit sort of Arnie from Wish.
Hell, not very well.
Ernie.
Emu Army.
I absolutely love the movies. I loved the pinball was so good, and I loved the theme from Terminator 2, the music from it. Sometimes if I'm working and I need to get myself going, I'll put on movie soundtracks. So I'll get this, and I'll get The Last of the Mohicans and Jurassic Park and Star Wars. It really gets me going. So I love the theme. And this trailer absolutely blew me away. This is a brilliant trailer. The game looks fantastic. There looks to be an awful lot in the game as well. There's a scene where Arnie appears to be naked as well, having just landed in the kind of the sphere thing, and it looks like a beat 'em up. It looks as if he's doing a kind of a Double Dragon style beat 'em up.
Yeah, that's the scene when he gets to the cafe and I want your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle, and snaps the queue and all that stuff. Yeah,
that scene's in it there. It looks great. It screams Batman and RoboCop at me though. Those 16-bit games, except much better. And they're trying so hard to look like that era of games, and they pull it off with a game that looks fun to play now.
With film franchises, it's in the past, it's always been difficult to get the game out in time for the movie.
Do you think they're going to make it this one?
But they've had, how many years has it been since then? So I think it's going to be a better game because they haven't got that crunch heading towards a movie release. The only movie tie-in that I could really say I think that absolutely nailed it was GoldenEye, because they released it like 2 years after the film came out. They had no pressure on them. So it bodes well, I think. I think they've got a clear run at this.
Yeah, and the Aliens games have done well because they came out years after the films as well. I was slightly put off by how complicated it might be with special moves. I don't want to play a 2D run and gun version of Street Fighter 2, or I don't want Dark Souls with controller combos. That would bounce off that. That's the only little problem I saw. But we haven't mentioned yet how big a deal this is. It is staggeringly well received. This is what everybody seems to want. It's got 1 million views on just the PlayStation trailer.
It can't have been easy to get the license to do this.
No.
There must have been quite a sum of money, even though it's an old film, it still carries a lot of weight. So there must have been sum of money, a certain amount of confidence in the team to actually allow them to do it. So well done to them.
I can't say how big a deal it is that a retro style game is the game that everybody wants to play. It's so popular. It's going to sell loads of units. It looks like it's going to be good. Absolutely amazing. We have gone mainstream.
The Bitmap Bureau is the company behind this, isn't it? Did anyone else think Bitmap Brothers when they saw that?
No, I'm sure that's a total accident. They would never try to be.
I always confuse them, Bitmap Brothers, and Bitmap Books.
Yeah,
fantastic.
This is huge, absolutely huge.
Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Do head to our subreddit to share your thoughts at reddit.com/r/this week in retro, where you'll also find the question of the week, and you'll see lots of stories that we don't cover just because we can't fit them all into the show. Sorry, I'm sucking on a fisherman's friend here for my cold, and Lee's got his bottle of Lucozade for his. We're going old school today.
Fisherman's friend, if you're not from the UK, are these tiny little candy things? Is that what we call them in America? Would they call them candies? They're not very sweet.
A lozenge.
They are nuclear. They will clear you out.
Well, I'm at the point where I'll eat 3 at a time. So I love it. Anyway, what was I saying? Go to Reddit, get involved, and make it part of your routine to check on the retro news there, because there's so much more than we discuss in the show. See you there.
I'd like to welcome 3 new patrons this week. So thank you very much to Tim, to Adam, and to Edward for signing up and becoming official twirlers.
Thank you very much. Do you think it had anything to do with my overzealous asking people to become patrons last week.
Guilt trip.
Guilt trip.
Guilt trip, yeah, maybe. I also want to thank Kevin McCartney for his achievement. He posted a comment on, for some reason, episode 151. It said, back catalogue complete, 207 episodes at the time of writing. That certainly is a testament to how much the show means to me. Always good to share time with Neil, Bo, and it cuts off. But I know he said Chris and Dave and some other things as well. So thank you very much, Kevin, for watching the backlog. I guess you must enjoy the show.
He's gone through the whole crafty backlog. Well done, Kevin. And he's chosen to comment on an episode that just you and Chris are in. I'm not in that one. Shocking. But thank you, Kevin. Good effort.
I'm a big fan of the show. I watch this when my usual Saturday is watching this while I'm doing the washing up in the morning, and then cooking lunch. I split it up during the day. But Thomas will often come in and he'll say, "Oh, it's Neil, it's Dave, it's Chris. Hello, Neil. Hello, Dave. Hello, Chris. Hello, Johnny. Hello, Dot." I can't wait for this Saturday when this comes out. I'm not going to tell him I've recorded this, and I'm going to put this in front of him. And hello, Thomas. Are you all right, mate? Are you being a good boy?
Have you done all your chores today? Is your room tidy, Thomas?
It's always tidy. He's fastidious.
Thomas has been on the show before.
He has, yeah.
He's a star. On to news in briefs, and sadly, we'll start out with some news that Don Priestley has passed away towards the end of last year. He gave us games like Trapdoor and Popeye, so you'll remember him as giving us games with huge big sprites, which made them really stand out in the spectrum, unlike anything else I can think of. So
with no clash, with no colour clash, managed to really pull something special.
Trapdoor is absolutely fantastic.
Genius.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Happy Coding ZX, for letting us know.
There is a new Amiga port of Outrun, which we've discussed on the show, but it is nearing completion now, and it looks fantastic. Thank you to DJ Chris Fury for linking us to the video, in which we see the game running on an Amiga 1200 with an 030, and no doubt further optimizations will follow. So a wonderful effort. Go and check out that video.
Squelch 411 was the first to let us know that EA has released source code for Command & Conquer. And they've done it right too. They've done a GitHub, which they then archived and told people to fork it off. So if you want to go and see it, it's there. They've done it absolutely perfectly, unlike what Winamp did.
Oh, yes, yeah. And fork it off is similar to some of the coding comments that you will find in the source code. A lot of hilarious comments, swearing and rude things which have been picked out by people that have been going over the source code.
Yeah. There already are fan versions of the game, and this will hopefully help them be more accurate. But this is absolutely what we want to do. Well done, EA, for game preservation. Never thought you'd hear that, did you? Well done, EA. EA are great. Fantastic, EA. I love EA.
They'll put microtransactions on it, don't worry.
It's the first 4 games in the series as well. It's not just Command & Conquer. Brilliant news.
And you can read all of that source code right now for the first game. And for a small fee, you can see the source code for the sequel. Squelch 411 also let us know that Skype is being canned. 20 years of it, and it's over. You never have predicted that 5 years ago. And the verb to Skype might outlive it. Have I still got Skype? I think I've still got Skype on my machine just because Windows forced it to be on there at some point.
I checked the other day and I don't have it. It's not included.
I can't remember the last time I used it. Yeah, I used to use it all the time. Well, we went from MSN Messenger and then they were like, no, you've got to use Skype now. We're killing that. And then that gave way to Teams, didn't it?
Yeah. But it was the app to use. It was everywhere.
It was no ICQ.
A beta version of Unix version 2 has been brought back to life. So thank you, G7VFY. So today I learned that permission hell can go back as far at least as 1972. If
you've bought my bundle and you want to buy even more, then Happy Coding...
I'm in it.
No, you're not.
Not this one. Happy Coding ZX has let us know that there is a lovely large package of itch.io stuff to help with the California fire relief effort. And there is a link to the California Fire Relief Bundle in the show notes. So go and check that out.
I'm told if you haven't bought one of these big, massive charity bundles before, then this has just absolutely masses and masses of all these itch.io games. So it seems like an absolute steal. I meant to buy it when he told me about it, and I haven't yet, so I will go by and buy that.
But Lee's not in it.
Lee's not in it. I'm not in it at all. You're not in it, Neil.
No.
I could do something and put it in it.
Which bundle should they buy, Neil?
Both of them.
Thank you.
Mine first.
There are loads more on the subreddit, as Neil said. If you're having a crafty log, go and spend 5 minutes browsing through the stories. Thank you. I like big box, and I cannot lie. And I know I've said that before, but I really enjoy it.
I was going to say, we've done that one before, Dave.
I really enjoy seeing it. And you other brothers can't deny it either. Although, I don't think I've seen you talk about big box games. Lee, are you a fan of big box games?
I saw him walk in with an itty-bitty box.
I do like big boxes, but my experience with them has always been... I feel a bit guilty because all of the big boxes that I bought back in the day, all my Amiga games and then early PC games that I bought in big boxes, I ended up taking the discs out, taking the manuals out, putting those in a pile, and then just throwing the boxes away because they were just taking up too much room. And then eventually the manuals would go, and then at one point, all of for CDs, or they would go on the wall, or the floppy drive of discs would be reused. I have a lot to atone for.
I have a wonderful collection of Acorn Archimedes games, but whoever had them at the time decided to throw out all of those VHS-style boxes that they came in. So I've just got a stack of inlays for Archimedes games and discs, and no boxes, and you just can't get hold of that type of box anymore. Look at that.
That's the only one that I really wanted back. This is Legend for the ZX Spectrum, which came with a full novel from David Gemmell.
And the type of
fantasy novel,
type of box that looks like it'll crack if you just look at it. It's
made from that horrible cheap plastic.
Yeah,
it's a plushie type.
Is that what
box.
It's called?
Yeah, I think that is. They're kind of squidgy.
Oh,
but,
Dave's Dave's got
thing.
the
Lord of the Rings is the same, and it comes with Fellowship of the Rings in it, and it's falling apart. But it comes with the tapes and Fellowship of the Rings novel inside it there. And it would have been absolutely fantastic for a kid to get this, along with the novel, to get you into Tolkien. What a wonderful thing to get. And your Legend would be the same.
One of my most endearing memories or enduring memories from my childhood is getting on a bus, driving to Well, I didn't drive the bus. Going to the next town across where all of the computer shops were, trawling around and then finding that game, Legend, in a bargain bin for, £5 or £6, which was about the cost of the book. And I quite like fancy books anyway. So I bought it on the strength of that, and then going through all the maps and the manual and having a little browse through the book on the way home on the bus, and then playing it when I got home as well. But it's a terrible game, but it's just one of those ones that have got that fuzzy memory because of the big box.
Well, if we're talking about games that come with a book in there, I'll go for Jeffrey Archer's Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less for the ZX Spectrum, with the novel included.
Well, we're going to be covering two submissions today. One from Testicle Entropy and one from David Cavalieri. What was funny about that? One from David Cavalieri, but they have a common theme in them. Both companies that make modern retro games, and both have run into trouble recently. The first is Retrobit, makers of NES, SNES, and Mega Drive cartridge games with English translations. So we all know that Japan has created some of the best games the world has ever seen. From arcade games to JRPGs to platformers to interactive novels to adventure games to whatever Katamari Damacy genre is. But there's plenty of games that were big in Japan. Oh, they're big in Japan, but they're not big in the rest of the world because there was no English translation done. For example, one of the most lauded JRPGs, and in fact, the most expensive to get hold of, I think, is Earthbound. Yet it's actually known as Mother 2 in Japan, not Earthbound 2 or Mother 2 in the Anglosphere, because the original game didn't get an English port. So obviously they wouldn't call something Mother 2 or Earthbound 2 if you couldn't get the first one, because that would put people off buying it. So Retrobit pay people to produce the English translation. And of course, they need to do a good job, because what you get from them, as I understand, is a physical cart to stick in your console. So it'll need to be spot on. The article links to a huge, big, long blog post which presents evidence, properly compelling, well-researched evidence that Retrobit have plagiarized. In other words, they've stolen other people's work on the translation. It has quotes from them confirming that the translation was not based on other people's work, that it was something they'd paid for to be done from scratch. But the blog is very compelling, and by the time I got even 1/3 of the way through, I was convinced. And it turns out that Retrobit themselves are convinced as well, and they have admitted it and said yes, but they're blaming the person they paid for the translation. So they've asked someone that they don't normally ask to do it. They thought they would do a good translation job, and actually that person, this is what it seems to be according to Retrobit, has just stolen someone else's translation and wrapped up as if they did it themselves.
I'd like to know how much of a consultant's approach they took. Did they go, right, I've got this here, I'm going to make you wait 3 weeks now and then send it to you? Or did they do it quickly? Don't know. But it's easy when you're big in Japan, Dave. Don't think you got away with that.
No. I enjoyed that. How much work could Retrobit have done to check the work? I mean, how do you check that when someone gives you a translation that it's not someone else's work? How do you do that? It's difficult. But they should have done it. And the impact on them, I'm sure, will be significant. People will be less likely to buy their games. Companies making these games, and particularly in the retrosphere, rely on their good reputation. They rely on people's good faith. They rely on people saying, I want to support this. These are projects I want to continue. And if they're ripping off other people uncredited, then that's not the same at all.
What were the telltale signs? Because I haven't read this blog yet, Dave, but presumably there are errors in the translation that are repeated that make it clear it's
fonts
the same.
And things like that, and errors and the way they've translated and choices. It's really compelling. It's absolutely undeniable. And that's why I think Retrobit have said, yeah, it's true.
I saw this and I thought, oh, this must just be a coincidence, because you assume that translation of language from one language to another is kind of a digital thing, but it's not. There's a certain amount of creativity that goes into it. And I just assumed that maybe they've just translated it in exactly the same way, and it's going to be difficult for them to say, oh, you know, this is an original work. It's just the same as what you did. But they actually changed things in the translation that didn't quite fit. Once they'd been actually translated, they didn't quite fit with the theme of that scene, and they changed some of the words. And yeah, they've got caught out by some of them words that have been changed being exactly the same.
Yeah, it's. I actually thought writing my notes for this, I thought I would have to be really cagey and say allegedly, and it looks like, and maybe, and all the rest of it. But by the time I got to the bottom of the article, I don't need to.
They might have had less trouble if they just used AI, which is a sad thought, isn't it?
Don't we all love that?
What a horrible thought. The other is about limited run games. Now, Damien McFerrin from Time Extension. Hello, Time Extension. You're fantastic, by the way. We get lots of stuff from them. They are a brilliant coverage of the retro scene. Interviewed Josh Fairhurst. So Josh Fairhurst was one of the two founders of limited run games. I think the other founder is no longer there. Now, limited run games have had problems. And I think it's important not to overstate this, because I don't want to say that these are extremely serious problems and that limited run games are in real trouble. I don't want this show to be the source of exaggerated drama. But they are problems, though. They are problems. And as Damien puts it in his preamble, and in fact, we've touched on a few of these here in the past, he says, in 2024, Limited Run Games was forced to apologise for shipping a 3DO title on a CDR. And its vinyl release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles soundtrack came under fire for being of a low standard. And then earlier this month, the company was accused of selling NES carts which could potentially damage consoles. And I'm told that it would take a long time to damage, and it's not likely, but shouldn't do it. Now, I have my own issues with limited run games around their PC big box re-releases. For example, their X-Wing does not contain a paper manual. It does not contain a technical reference, does not contain a keyboard reference. It does not contain the novella or the extension to the novella in the clue book. In fact, nothing in the box adds to the in-game experience at all. They tend to put things that are trinkets and so on in the box, and I think most people don't open the box. It just stays on a shelf, so it doesn't enhance the gameplay, but that's an aside. The problem is that both of these companies have gone to third-party suppliers that they should have either checked more thoroughly or not used at all, and they've been let down. Now, maybe it's corner cutting, maybe it's penny pinching, or maybe it's simply because it's hard to keep to deadlines, and you're then faced with this dilemma of either delaying things or taking what you think is a small risk or an assurance from someone you shouldn't trust that it's going to be okay, and it turns out it's not. The reality, though, is that in the pre-digital distribution world, the majority of people who bought games bought them only to get the way of playing the game, not because they wanted them on a shelf like we do now. So what they're producing now is a different product than what we had back in the day in so many ways. Do you worry, though, Neil, that the dev den might end up with these kind of difficulties? And what do you think?
We need a game first, Dave. I think you're being very fair there, but let's just think about our previous story. Bitmap Bureau, not only are they releasing a physical game, they've had to make the game as well. You know, I know Limited Run, they are remaking a lot of games, but they're not making it from scratch. The content is there. So the hard part is almost kind of done for them, isn't it? And then they're having these mess ups further down the line as well.
Well, that was my point about why people buy it. If people buy this game from Bitmap Bureau, they're buying it to get the game primarily. But if they buy it from Limited Run Games, if you buy a PC game from Limited Run Games, you're not buying it because it's the only way to play it.
You're already nostalgic for that game because you've played it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's a difficult balance. And also, if you think about how much it would cost to produce manuals, maps, and all the feelies that we enjoyed back in the day, but in these smaller quantities, it's going to come to a lot of money. And sometimes I think these companies should actually try to do less with these limited run games and make sure they do what they do really well. So, for example, you mentioned, was it X-Wing? No manual, that's unforgivable. If you're buying a physical game, you've got to have a paper manual in there.
X-Wing is a fantastic game, and there is so much that they could do with it. This is the strategy guide to it.
Okay, but that was a separate purchase. That wouldn't have come with the game.
It continues the novella. The novella's in there, the whole manual and so on. Missing that out, it's just sad to miss all that out.
Yeah, so I say do less limited run games, but do it well. So if you're making a boxed game, don't make it a flimsy, undersized box. Don't make it like a late 90s box where they were cost cutting. Make it like a solid Sierra box from 1990, big, chunky, solid with a slip cover on it. I don't want key rings. And I don't want feelies that have nothing to do with the actual gameplay. I want it all to be part of the game. T-shirt.
No.
You know, I've never worn a T-shirt that came with a game. I've always sort of gone, oh, well, I better keep that in the box. That's part of the package. You've got to keep that nice. Yeah, and just make a really well-written manual and supporting materials. If you can't afford to do a cloth map, do one on some nice, thick, waxy paper. Just do a few things really well. I don't want a key ring. I don't want
You want the stuff that's going to enhance the game.
Yeah.
But you also want something that's going to give you that nostalgia buzz.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So
if it's a flight sim like X-Wing is kind of, then you need a keyboard reference guide.
Yeah.
You need that for a flight sim.
Or an overlay.
Yeah.
An overlay would be difficult in the modern day with all our different keyboards, but a thing you can put in front of your keyboard, a prop it up on a little triangle thing that props up and has all the keys. And maybe some kind of slidey thing on there. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, if you're going to use physical media, don't use CDR. Who the hell signed that off? Come on. That's unforgivable.
I'm sure it must have got to the point. The Farlander papers, that's it. The Farlander papers came with it. How can you not put the Farlander papers inside X-Wing? I'm sure whoever signed it off was faced with the dilemma of, further delays, further unhappy customers, or just do that and that'll sort the problem. And they've made the wrong call.
And it's easy to say, do your due diligence from content from people you partner with. But, mistakes happen. Mistakes happened back in the day when it comes to, printed materials and things like that. But, just be a bit more careful. I don't know. I'm just going to sort of fizzle out on that, Dave. I haven't got a big point to make at the end of it. I'm just going to limp off now. Okay, back to you, Dave.
What do you think, Lee?
About big box games in general, or this specific story?
These drama episodes.
It doesn't
drama. Well, no, I don't really. I avoid it at all costs.
I'm joking.
The last thing I want in my life is more drama. I'm pretty ambivalent about it, really. I'm not someone who collects the software side of things, and the only two big box things that I got back from my nostalgia years is that copy of Legend and a copy of The Quill.
The Quill.
The Quill.
And I'm getting that signed, by the way. Tim Gilbert's is.
He's a nice man.
Promised.
He's a nice man.
I sat down with him. I sat down with him at Cambridge last year for about half an hour, and just had the best chat. It was fantastic.
It helps as well that he's got a lovely voice.
Yeah,
just listen to him talk about anything.
The Retro Adventurers podcast did this end of year chat, which I've only caught up on this week. This great big long chat, and Tim came on that along with Scott Adams, and Tim Gilbert's and Scott Adams just chatting along in 2024, just about games in general, just for no reason other than they wanted to be there. I mean, they didn't have to say yes to this, just wanted to be there. Two of the people who, Scott Adams, Adventureland, and Scott Adams, and Adventure International, all that kind of stuff, and then Tim Gilbert's for The Quill, just two responsible for so much in text adventures, just quite happily having a chat. It was really enjoyable.
If you see Tim at an event, just go up and talk to him, because he's just such an open and friendly man.
Well, he put a reply onto this onto YouTube, so he might even know who I am, kind of thing, which would be quite kind of.
We all know who you are. But yeah, I'm not really that into getting back the all of the big box games that I destroyed over the years. That guilt is just going to live with me forever now. But modern ones, modern recreations. If they were done right and they were the right value and they gave me what I wanted, if someone did a Legend that wasn't going to disintegrate when I picked up the box, then I would be interested. But I don't think that's going to be possible, because you would need the rights for the novel. And
it'll never happen.
Yeah. But yeah, there we go. I'm probably the wrong person to ask for this.
It is possible to do it right, though. If you look at Thalamus Digital, what you get with Thalamus Digital is a 16-bit style box, which is a bit smaller than a PC big box, but it's got a proper game disc in it. It's got a proper press CD in it. It looks the part. It's got a manual in it. They don't try and do too much. There's no rank insignia. There's no certificate of authenticity. There's no trinkets. It's exactly what you'd hope to get in there at a good price. And Polydot Play seem to be able to pull it off as well. I've got those to open up, but the ones that from Polyplay that I have got them opened up, I'm delighted with what's in there. So I know I don't want to play into the controversy and have a stick the boot into these two companies. They've clearly made mistakes, and I hope they learn from it. So there you go. I think, though, it's very difficult. It's not easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It's difficult, lemon difficult.
Time now for our community question of the week. So last week we asked, what vintage game would you ask AI to remake for you? That's a nice question, seeing as we've had Skynet on the show today. And what are the most important parts of that game that it must not miss to be a success? So we're talking about the nuances that AI might miss that make a game what it is, give it its heart and soul. Top answer is from Robert Crowther. Thank you, Robert. And he says, a remake of Stunt Car Racer with online multiplayer for 4 or more, make the track slightly wider as the number of players in the lobby increases. This and Populous were the first LAN games that he played with his brother. He made a no modem cable to connect their Amigas together. Both great games. I'm sure there are similar kind of stunty car games out there in the modern day, but if you stripped it back and had that basic filled polygon style in a modern game with the roller coaster tracks, I'd enjoy that. That'd be great fun, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe extra power-ups. I wouldn't add weapons to Stunt Car Racer. I think that would ruin it, but
No, I think it's good in its simplicity. There's enough in the simple game to play without adding more in.
Yeah.
Tungsten Orchid says Minesweeper. He says the AI should absolutely, positively not miss out the riveting plot and character development. Thank you very much.
Lee, have you got the page open?
I have, yeah. Can I do two?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next one is Slight Cover 1385, who says, probably best leave AIs. Probably best that AI leaves our favourite vintage retro games well alone. They're fine as they are, flaws and all. And I think that's probably something everybody can get on board with. But It's Me Thyroid says, a certain game featuring Samantha Fox with a crowd of people staring back at you. I think that's a fantastic answer.
Well, maybe there'll be a game of that in Lee's Discord soon on the in the video room where you can all participate.
There is an interesting one. CS Marauder says, any of the SSI Gold Box engine games, which you can see behind me, but make them real-time hack and slash multiplayer enabled, bump up the graphics, and I think you can have an amazing game. So kind of like online Golden Axe.
Okay, go ahead, Lee. Sorry,
I was going to submit one for this, and I forgot to actually write it into the Reddit. But mine would be Rise of the Robots, but make it good.
One Must Fall 2097. That's what Rise of the Robots wanted to be.
That's what it would make.
Yeah.
Okay, Promotions 3226 says they would ask AI to remake the original Elite, keep it the same, but upscale the resolution, add textures on the original wireframes, etc.
That's a bit dangerous.
Well, I know Chris has mentioned that he sees Elite. I think it was Chris who said it's sort of like truck driving. He finds it a little bit boring going from place to place. And actually, Elite is such a vast game. It's one of those where you could say keep it original, but let AI just make it more interesting and see what happens, as in plot and interactions and, things like that. Missions. That might be quite fun.
Elite is the most money I've ever spent on a video game. I bought Elite Dangerous.
Yeah.
I bought the premium beta and I bought a HOTUS joystick and everything to go with it. And the premium beta was £100 on its own.
Wow, for an unfinished game.
And then I bought a VR headset to go with it as well.
Wow.
So I ended up spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds on this one game.
It wasn't just any beta, it was premium. So it was sort of the best of the unfinished game.
It had to be premium for that much money.
There's one comment I like, it's Fiskett, and it says, I'd like AI to do the washing up, the shopping, go to work, and stay out the way. So that's a good idea. I want the AI to do the other things so that we can sit and play games all day instead. What's the question of the week this week?
What's the best thing you ever found bundled with a game?
There you go. And that could be intentionally in there or unintentionally in there.
Yeah.
What's the best thing you found bundled with a game? And that brings us to the end of the show. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, head to reddit.com/r/thisweekinretro. Lee, where can we go and subscribe to you?
More fun making it on the YouTubes, but come and see our Discord as well, the Retro Hardware Discord. We've got a few different retro hardware YouTubers involved in that Discord now, and it's growing and expanding, and it's just a lovely, friendly place. It's the best Discord in retro circles, I think, in my opinion. And I've had other people tell me that as well.
Better than ours. Right.
Have you got a Discord? I didn't know. Sorry.
Shocking. And if people want to meet you, I believe you'll be in Swindon.
We'll put your address on this. We'll put your home address on this.
Yeah.
May the 31st, there's a new event starting in Swindon at the Steam Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Choo-choo.
May the 31st and June the 1st. Organised by the same people that did the Retro Festival at Cambridge the last couple of years I've been there. And it looks like it could be quite an interesting thing. And lots of us YouTubers are going to be there.
It's the first one that they've done in Swindon. And I love it because it's actually closer to me even than the cave is from my house to get to. So
we're all staying over at Neil's house.
So I really want this to be a success. So yeah, we'll talk about that in future shows as well when there's more information shared about it. But look out for that. And finally, do subscribe to the show if you haven't already done so. Subscribe.
Give us a review. Review the show.
Review, all that stuff.
Go on Apple Podcasts and give us a review.
Comment and like as well, because it really helps.
Give us a review. Review.
Done?
Review.
Okay. See you next week.
Podcast.
Thanks for listening, everyone. He's waving. Come on.
I'm waving. Lee's waving.
Double-handed waving. I'll join in.
Hey, jazz hands.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This Week in Retro was presented by Neil from the Retro Collective and Dave. It was produced by me, Duncan Styles. The podcast version of the show is available through your favourite podcaster, including Apple Podcast and Spotify. And the video version is available on the This Week in Retro YouTube channel.
Join our community subreddit at r/This Week in Retro to suggest and vote on the stories we cover on the show. If you watch This Week in Retro on YouTube, please give us a like and subscribe to help us reach new viewers.
If you enjoy our show and would like to support it, then please check out the link to our Patreon page in the show notes or description. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time for more up-to-date news for out-of-date tech.